Long before mortals carved their stories into stone, the gods whispered secrets in the halls of Swarg. Among them flowed Ganga, the river goddess, her waters holding gently the cosmos, pure, wild and chaotic, and bound by a promise that would overwhelm her soul. A promise to 8 radiant stars, Vasu, cursed to taste mortality. A promise to free them with a mother's hands, and a killer's determination. But even gods forget, promises made in heaven bleed differently on earth. The scent of ash and champak blossoms clung to King Shantanu as he stood at the river's edge, his heart a drumbeat louder than the roaring Ganga. She emerged not as water but as a woman, hair like midnight waves, eyes sharp as monsoon lightning. Love, swift and reckless, gripped him. "Marry me," he begged, not knowing her tears were older than his lineage. She agreed, but with a vow, "Never question my actions, or I will leave." He swore, blind to the infant cries echoing in her wake. The first child came with the spring rains. Shantanu watched his queen, holding their son gently, her fingers trembling as they traced his brow. Then, without a word, she walked into the river. The baby's veils vanished beneath the current. The king's throat burned with grief, but his oath choked his tongue. The second son drowned at dawn, the third under a blood-red moon. By the 7th, Shantanu's heart had become hardened like riverbed stone. Each time Ganga returned, her sari draping, eyes hollow as dried wells. She sang no lullabies. She shed no tears. Why? He ached to scream, but the goddess's silence was a blade between them. When the 8th son was born, his cries were thunder. This child glowed, literally, Ganga Freech. For the first time her hands shook not with duty but fear. This one was different. The Vasu curse had spared him a mortal's fate. He would live long, suffer longer. As she raised him to the water, Shantanu's resolve snapped. "Stop!" he roared, seizing her wrist. "You've slaughtered 7 sons. Is your heart made of ice?" Ganga mask cracked. Tears, real human tears, streaked her face. "Foolish king," she whispered. "You think I wanted this?" Her truth spilled like a flood. The Vasu, once celestial beings, had been cursed to mortal lives for stealing the sage Vashisht cow. They begged Ganga, "End our suffering swiftly. Drown us at birth so our souls may return to the stars." She'd agreed, binding herself to a mother's cruelest dharma, kill to save, love to destroy. "Each time I held them," she choked, "their warmth seeped into my immortal veins. They called me mother with their first breath, and I answered with their last." Shantanu crumpled. His anger dissolved into ash. "But this 8th son will live," Ganga finished. "His name is Devrat. He will carry burdens heavier than death, and you will call him Bhishma." Before dawn, Ganga stood at the river's brink, Devrat in her arms. Her kiss lingered on his brow, a secret blessing. "Forgive me," she whispered. "Mothers are not meant to be both savior and executioner." As Shantanu took the child, her form dissolved into the current, leaving only her voice on the wind. "When your son becomes a legend, remember, it was my love that made him mortal." Devrat, true to Ganga prophecy, grew to be a towering figure in the Mahabharata. His life was marked by unparalleled sacrifice, his vow of celibacy earning him the title Bhishma Pitama. Yet, the story of his birth, the grief of a mother, the wrath of a sage, and the redemption of the Vasu remained a poignant reminder of the intricate threads of karma and dharma that weave through the tapestry of life. Centuries later, as Bhishma lay on a bed of arrows, his life bleeding into Kurukshetra soil, Ganga rose in a mist above him. Mortals below saw only fog. But Bhishma smiled. "Mother," he whispered. Her tears fell as rain. "You never called me that before. You never stayed to hear it," he replied. And as his soul ascended, the river wept, her waves whispering the oldest truth. To love is to drown, but to abandon love, that is the eternal flood. The river, Ganga, continued to flow, her waters a silent witness to the eternal dance of justice and mercy, reminding all who listened of the sacrifices made for the greater good. As you sit by the banks of the Ganga watching her eternal flow, remember this tale. It is a story not just of abandonment but of love, a mother's love so profound that it transcended worldly understanding, and in her sacrifice lies a lesson that sometimes even the most painful actions are driven by the purest intentions.